information.
Release the dick pic cut. Dick pic cut.
I don't know if you guys have been on Twitter lately. I mean, there's been some real heavy things going on in the world. Absolutely. There's something that I came across an article on cosmicbook.news of a thread of Grace Randolph from Beyond the Trailer and Kathy Yan, director of Birds of Prey, going back and forth, getting into a debate, which of course ignited a lot of commentators, some people attacking and some people defending on both sides of this argument. Basically, the story is about Kathy Yan is saying Grace Randolph falsely reported on something and painted a lot of things in bad light. So there's a lot of these arguments about proper journalism, Grace defending herself on her sources. And we're going to show you guys all the screenshots we can gather when this started. Here's what I want to say. There's two things I want to address right up front. First thing is, because of the like with our opening line, we make fun of like almost every YouTuber that we think of, but it's rarely do we have an actual agenda or mean it in a mean-spirited way.
There's no beef here.
Right? It's like
no beef.
The big thing was when we did our Endgame sketch, you know, there were jokes about like Grace Randolph was going to beat us to this.
She was born February 5th, 1987 and has written several comic books, but like hell will we let people know how much we follow her.
And Grace Randolph commented on her video like saying job well done, boys, and we were like, yay. You know, we make our jokes, but we make fun. If you guys watch us long enough, you'll see we make fun of like almost anyone, and it's never in a mean way.
Yeah.
It's always in good fun.
If we were going back and forth with Kathy Yan on Twitter and Grace reported on that, it's fair.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I don't want this at all to be taken out of context as if we're trying to expose or trying to get drama or beef started or being like, what's up, Grace Randolph? Although I would be fascinated to see her video on this. I would like an actual video from her. That would be, it'd be fun to watch. Because this is movie news, all right? And movie news I don't think needs to be taken as seriously or cause so much outrage as a lot of people tend to react to movie news, because it's just fucking movie news. It's entertainment stuff.
Fiction.
Right? And I know that like in any fan base, you often get people who talk shit, get passionate. I get it. With us, you know, it's just movie news.
It's not that high stakes.
Right.
It's fun to debate about, but if you're actually losing your cool, you should stop for a minute.
Now, to shift gears for just a tiny little bit. A lot of people are saying today like they're not going to be doing videos on YouTube because of what's going on in the world with the protests and such. I understand that. And if you follow me on Instagram and Twitter, you'll see that I am very much passionate about what is going on in the world right now. Yesterday, I actually did go to the protest held officially by Black Lives Matter in Long Beach, California. And for the time I was there, it was a very peaceful protest. Even at one point, there was an individual, a singular individual, who broke a windshield to a car, and a bunch of people gathered around the car, putting their hands up, saying, like, making sure, like, no, you got to stop that. No one can do this. Around like 5:20 p.m. there was confusing alerts going off. Curfews at 6, curfews at 8, curfews at 6. Most of us got like 3 different ones. We're like, what time's the curfew? But this is kind of strange. We were heading back to our car already. The thing that happened was, for the most part, it was a very beautiful, very peaceful protest. I don't necessarily want to go out there and make a video that is solely about this, but I did feel like I have to at least say something. I couldn't stay completely silent. At the end of the day, yeah, I mean, even when we do our live streams, the thing we always say before we do a live stream on the weekend is, these guys have had a rough week, most likely. Let's just give them a sense of escapism. We're talking about movies primarily, you know?
It should always be fun when you're talking about movies to some extent.
But I can't deny, this is what's mainly on my mind. And like I said, if you follow me on social media, you'll see. What I wanted to just use this time to say was, we're not your sources for it. However, I would heavily encourage you to get educated, really be educated. I did start to feel that real anger after being at the Long Beach protest, because you'll see a lot of celebrities who will retweet these like very beautiful, peaceful moments by the thousands of people that are there. And that's the majority of the time of the actual protest of wanting to do something right and fighting for the right things in a peaceful manner. The news will just take like, oh, looting, let's record that. What's happening right now is very important. I think what's great about what's happening is that it's becoming a worldwide event. Seeing people in London, Germany. First, it was like just going all around America, but then seeing other countries get involved in the Black Lives Matter movement is very important. And I also want to say that if you're out in a city where there are protests going on, do whatever you can to be safe, because as we've seen and you guys already know, shit can get out of hand. I would also say don't just only watch the news. Matter of fact, on social media, you can find actual unedited footage that is not going on the news of either peaceful protests or the enduring police brutality that is going on during these protests, where you're seeing people who are literally surrendering, not doing anything, who are just being flat out assaulted, flat out abused in some very disturbing ways. It's important that, yes, you got to find your time for escapism. I encourage that. You got to find your time to get your mind off of things. I encourage you to be educated on this matter. The main victim where the protests really stem from is from George Floyd. And it was a terrible, terrible thing that happened to him. There are so many people of color, who are abused or killed.
And by just institutionalized racism, it's baked into our culture in a lot of ways, even if you can't see it.
And a lot of times it is not something that's being reported on. It's not something that's being really publicized. So what's happening right now is important. And so I just want to take some time out to say, get encouraged. Go to blacklivesmatter.com.
MN Relief Fund.
Go to the help fund section to go donate. This is important. Do what you can to be educated on it.
Listen to people of color elevate their voices, and this is everybody's problem, whether you like it or not.
Yep.
We're all stuck on this rock together.
Now, let's talk about something that's actually serious. Kathy Ann and Chase Randolph going back and forth. That's the serious stuff. All right, guys. So here's where this really started. Like I said, this is I honestly just thought this was very entertaining, and that's why I wanted to talk about it.
It's not every day you get news as juicy as this.
This actually started with our homeboy David Ayer, and who has really been talking a little bit more in depth, actually, about how different his original Ayer cut was intended to be for Suicide Squad, right? He's been responding to a lot of people, and then he put out one tweet that said, this was just one of many, where he said, this was reshot because the tone was too dark. My first act was a normally constructed film. I took my inspiration. I love that.
It was normally constructed.
It wasn't this clusterfuck.
It wasn't a trailer or a music video.
I took my inspiration from Nolan. There were real scenes with incredible acts. I love how he's just saying, like, it was a real movie.
It was a movie, you guys.
There were real scenes with incredible acting between Jared and Marco. Joker was terrifying. Harley was complex. This is the guy who said F Marvel. I love that. I love how there's
complex.
Sometimes I'll use the F word. That's what I don't. And then Kathy Ann said, I'm so sorry this happened to you, David. I know the pain. Which made a lot of people start questioning, like, wait a minute, what? We heard about Birds of Prey reshoots, but the movie was received well. I thought this was the film you wanted to make. That's what every director says, right?
That's what every director says until they're allowed to speak the truth.
And then Grace Randolph, who I remember being one of the main people to have reported on this, and I believe that when she reported on the reshoots and then some things that studios were not happy about, I remember that time now that I think about it, a lot of people were reporting on her reports. Because the thing with Grace Randolph, a lot of times she gets the scoops on things. Sometimes she's wrong. Sometimes she's right. I want to make that clear right now, all right? There are plenty of times where I have found Grace Randolph to be correct. Like everyone else in her field, in our field, sometimes you're wrong, okay?
Sometimes there's a margin of error.
Because, like, we will sometimes talk about leaks and stuff. The thing that we like to do, though, is we always make a disclaimer, even if it really falls under the radar. We usually make a disclaimer. This might not be real. If this is real, if this is to be believed, we say that. But we always roll with the story and treat it as if it's real, because that's more fun. Because, like I said, it's just movie news. And what we're about to unveil, if you haven't already heard it, will lead to a wide variety of opinions, probably from us, from you guys. This is in no way, I'm not trying to do an attack video, okay? This is not what it is. I told you guys, massive reshoots, largely to take out dick pics, storyline, and add more action via Chad Stahelski. I'm surprised Kathy Ann would jump on this bandwagon, though Birds of Prey very well received by critics and has a very strong fan base that vehemently defends film, as is DCEU. Now, Kathy Ann did not take so kindly to us. She said, excuse me, you have no idea what you're talking about. It's fascinating you would deem to try when you weren't part of the process whatsoever. That's the thing when you get into Twitter wars. I have a way of interpreting the voices.
Excuse me. No idea what you're talking about. That's how I read everybody.
So clearly Kathy Ann is not happy with Grace Randolph reporting on this or having said that. So Grace Randolph replied, no reporter is ever part of the process. I love how Grace Randolph is retweeting this tweet. They're different jobs. Should we do that? Does that make your tweet seem more? If you retweet your own tweet?
Maybe, or maybe it's just clout chasing.
Everything I reported is common knowledge with many insiders. I brought it to the public. One thing I'll say too, and a little minor defense for Grace here. When she says, everyone always says inside sources. Every leak you've ever heard, it says inside sources,
That's the
right?
most vague term.
I have found sometimes her inside sources, whomever they may be, can be correct. All right?
Sure. It's gonna happen.
And
I'm sure there are industry insiders who are 100% legit, and some of them are also just like janitors who heard something down the hallway.
It's sometimes they're wrong. All
Yeah.
right, that's the way it goes. She said, I gave your film a good review, and I said here you have a strong fan base, so logically there should be no problem here.
Unless there's misinformation.
Unless there's misinformation, then
Yeah.
there's probably a problem here, right? And I thank you for the support, but let's set the record straight. Now, when you say the word but, that negates everything that came before. I'm just saying.
Were there butt pics?
She said there were never dick pics. You peddling a pedophilia rumor is not journalism. Peddling any gossip is not journalism. I know I was one. She has a point. Now, the sad part about movie news,
Yes, a lot of it's gossip.
most of what we hear is gossip.
It's gossip that you hope will be proven true so your outlet is reliable.
And now more so than ever because everything is delayed. So many people are reporting on gossip.
The gossip is what drives the
Yeah.
traffic now.
Yeah, this is a movie news thing I'm talking about
Yeah.
here. This is not a solely Grace Randolph thing. We'll talk about the gossip. A lot of people do.
Because it's one of the few places in which it's fun to muse about that. It's not fun in real world content.
It's just always important to make a disclaimer that this might not be true.
Yes.
All right? It's always important to say that this is a rumor. Okay?
Especially if you cannot credit or cite your source.
Exactly. And she said multiple reporters confirmed that story after I reported it and said it was great and should be kept in the film and didn't like it taken out. And dick pics aren't pedophilia. Plus, as a former journalist, you should realize the optics of not pretending you have a suddenly better Yan cut. I mean, is she doing that?
I feel like that's a leap. I feel like at best she is going, yeah, the studio also kind of strong-armed my vision. Maybe is kind of what I'm getting out of that. I'm not necessarily getting Yan cut from this, you know.
I mean, it is interesting because, and there's more here.
It just stops being interesting after this part.
No. It gets more interesting, trust me. What's interesting about this particular thing is that Birds of Prey, while there's a lot of people who, I mean, especially like the YouTube reviewers, who really didn't like it, you know, and we were one of like very few people. I actually didn't see Grace's review on this movie. I believe that she gave it a positive review. We were like two dudes who actually loved it. So
it's one of my favorite DCEU flicks.
So I'm not. I mean, I'm sorry for Kathy Yan having to go through that. I know this is what most directors who are involved with a big studio film go through. This is usually a part of the process,
especially if they haven't done a huge studio film before.
Yeah, it's part of it. So I'm not really like championing for like a Kathy Yan cut because I don't really know what's not in that movie, and I already loved what we got. you know?
Unless she comes out next week and is like, the whole film was different.
Yeah.
You know, then okay, we'll talk about that.
Kathy Yan responded saying, that is not true. This is not true. There has never been any discussion around the size of Roman's dick. I can't believe I even have to write that. The original script called for an image of Roman as Michelangelo's David. You know? Art, if there's a dick pic, then the Louvre is full of them. Kathy Yan is very hurt here, you know. Yeah, she's talking down.
She's frustrated at the moment, and I guess
she's talking down.
If
it sounds like Kathy Yan has probably had a lot of resentment towards her in this process, because what you're about to see next, he tweeted this thing out of, meanwhile, articles like the one below are written off of your scoops. Congratulations on being the scum of journalism. Now, a lot of people did not take kindly to that. First of all, she was already talking down, and then she did name calling, and a lot of time when you start going into that territory, people immediately try to discount your whole argument and being like, okay, now I'm on Grace's side because you name called,
Yeah.
So this article that she put out was Margot Robbie, Birds of Prey has pedophilia elements, and this comes from the website Cosmic Book Not News. Funny enough, this is where I found the article that led me to all this Twitter thread. And she said, that's not my story. How can I control if reporters don't quote me accurately? I never said pedophilia in my reporting, ever. And Kathy, your recent tweets just prove my story correct, which you've clearly never bothered to see. And name calling isn't a good look for anyone. Now, there was footage a user put out named Alfonso.
I'll repeat that handle.
This is not the whole video. For all I know, there could be more of a further elaboration here. A lot of people are referencing this point that Grace brought up in a video, and 9 seconds long. Here it is.
Having an underage girl swallow something that has pictures of adult private parts on it seems questionable at best. Next.
So, she didn't say the words pedophilia.
No.
But that is an act of it,
The question is pedophilia. That's what makes it questionable, is the insinuation of that. Yeah.
The article, the headline, it really does use that word.
It's an alley-oop. It's like she insinuates the idea, and then the article just goes full on. Is there pedophilia in the movie?
Yes. Let's break some of this down, okay? Because there was some other random thread that occurred where Grace was saying the storyline was that you could use Roman's dick on the statue in the picture in the diamond. He was upset it looked small, so that's why he was so fixated on getting it back. A picture of a statue's dick, especially in this context, is a dick pic.
Well, if it's just of the dick,
yes,
the statue, if it's not the rest of the statue.
Daniel Richtman, who's Daniel RPK, who has reported on a lot of things and leaks that have been true before, said she's talking about the dick pics and Roman Black Mass being explicitly gay. This was a receipt that Grace Randolph retweeted, right? And Daniel RPK then said, I just love it. It starts with Kathy Yan and Grace Randolph. And then now Daniel RPK is like, whoa, I don't want to look bad at Kathy Yan's eyes. What the fuck? Don't bring me in this. Also, there were never any dick pics. I got used to say that, but it was a naked statue and was really more to Roman's character being a valuable art collector, and very well done. Nothing pedo about it like you tried to claim. Your tweet literally says dick pics, Daniel. Welcome to the party. Now, I don't know where this whole swallowing photo of it is coming from. I didn't say anything in this thread that was like her clarifying where that came from. Maybe it was something here about like inside sources. In terms of her argument with Daniel RPK, he is saying she's talking about the dick pics. To like talk about the statue and then just say dick pics. It's like, yes, now this is technicality, semantics argument. This is a game of like the worst kind of telephone,
Yeah, without any kind of vocal intonations or anything to go along with any of these words. It is a bit of a word salad sandwich.
It's been so long gathering this information in proper formation, so I've been trying to just communicate that to you guys. Not really letting John talk. John, go for it.
I know. I mean, I'm fascinated by what's going to happen to this, because I think there are points being made on both sides that are fair enough. I mean, Grace is doing what's well within her right as a reporter to take scoops. And in movie news, as much as it's problematic, a big part of what thrusts movie news is possibility, is rumors, is prospect. I'm feeling like this situation is blowing really out of proportion. I mean, if you go back and you look at the movie, and according to Kathy Yan, they basically went in, they said, okay, the statue thing isn't really that funny. It's not really contributing to the movie. We'll add a few lines of dialogue to replace what's on the thing in the diamond with something else. And so I'm confused as to what the truth is, obviously, because I'm sitting here going, is this as small of a detail as Kathy Yan is making it out to be, or is this as huge of a detail and like a plot overhaul as Grace is making it out to be? And I think it's going to be a while before we have an idea of the truth of that.
Yeah, that's the weird thing about this argument. It's just like, wait, I think when I'm like looking at her first tweet in response to what Kathy Yan first said to David Ayer, she said, I told you guys, massive reshoots largely to take out dick pic storyline and add more action via Chad Stahelski.
The action part seems large.
I mean, the thing is like, I can't deny that. When you say that, when you put that as your first sentence in the tweet,
it
makes it sound like there's this big dick pic
overhaul the
storyline
movie because of this dick pic.
and we need to rewrite this
gotta retool the
because there's
entire
so
thing.
much story.
Restructure it. Take the dicks out. Just put action. I don't know.
That's what this is about. You know, like
Yeah.
it does. It can read like that.
Yeah, it does.
I mean, and 100%. That's there's two things she's talking about in that sentence.
It sounds like we need to take the dick pics out and put more action. And that's what needs to fix this movie.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Whereas Kathy Yan is saying no. That was really a little thing about a statue, you know?
Yeah, and it's like I get how this boiled out of this. See, that's why I guess I'm inclined to kind of believe what Kathy Ann's saying here, because I can also see how easily the game of telephone could have worked here, because there is a nude image involved.
Yeah.
And so now you can just kind of reframe that and look at it from multiple angles and put it out to people from multiple angles.
I mean, I feel like Grace believes what she believed, you know? Like, that's what I'll say to that, too.
I don't know. I mean, maybe it could be, and maybe people realize that was not a great decision and they're embarrassed by it, but
Yeah.
I don't know why it would lead to this level of conflict if that was really the case.
This is why I don't have, like, a super strong opinion on this to, like, attack or defend someone, because I'm like,
It's,
wait, is the movie reshot because of this?
Or is this one of the things?
Because Kathy Ann's making it sound like it's not reshot because of this, and that little tidbit was blown out of proportion, turned into dick pics, turned into Cassandra Cain swallowing photos, and you know, and which then turns into a pedophilia discussion, which turns into trying to be too edgy and too woke and like all these things. You know, I'm not sure. It's like I don't have all of Grace's full video here to see if she says anything about like, is this true? If this is to be believed? Because sometimes she can just state things as if this is the actual thing, and a lot of times if something comes out and she happens to be right, like the way she started out with this tweet of like, told you guys, you know, like that told you guys thing, like I was right. See, you know, she's not the only one who does that. Right?
Oh, of course. And especially if you're in the business of breaking scoops, I think it behooves you to be like, my scoop was good.
You're trying to always boost your credibility.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing is looking at what's happening here, it almost feels like the conflict is more of an interpersonal one than a conflict over what's actually in the movie, because it seems like if you boil down what they're talking about, the core elements are kind of agreeable. There's a situation that got changed involving a nude visage of Roman Sionis.
Yeah.
So, like, part of me almost feels like the actual whether or not... It's weird. It's like I'm trying to zero in on the core of the conflict, and I'm not entirely sure what it actually is, other than journalism at the end of the day. I feel like anytime you rest upon industry insiders, you're in a dubious position, because that's a 50-50 crapshoot.
Well, Grace Randolph has a lot of clout. Yeah. At the end of the day, she does. Whatever opinions you have of her, she does have a lot of clout, to the point that if she says something... there's gonna be people who run with what she said.
Oh yeah,
as if this is the latest breaking thing. Is that's just the way it goes. It's not her fault if someone runs with her story and uses different vocabulary and then changes up a lot of the context of what she was talking about. That is true. At the same time, there is a sense of accountability on the form of journalism, though. If you're in this position and you're aware of, hey, when I break something, people will run with it, you got to be better at articulating or knowing where your facts are coming from. Like I said, there's a lot of times she is right. And a lot of time, though, with situations like this, I imagine can really upset a director because, like, I get where Kathy Ann's coming from at the same time, because that information led to a lot of bad press, and which put her on the receiving end of getting a lot of crap, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And then I can imagine being in a position like, where did this start? Fucking Chris Randolph. You know?
Well, and also just because as the director, I feel like that is one of the roles in filmmaking where you can easily be blamed for all kinds of things that weren't necessarily your fault, or you can be overlooked for things that were your doing. It's got to be weird to be a director, especially when you have people shouting at you before your movies even come out. The person I would be really fascinated to hear from on this is Margot Robbie too, because she had a big part in choosing Kathy Ann and in guiding the vision of the movie. I gotta imagine this sucks for the both of them too, to have a dick-related controversy slapped onto their movie for what the movie is, for the amount of controversy that gender equality and feminism cause people now. To have it just seems so regressive and so utterly frustrating to have a literally giant dick controversy. controversy surrounding this movie right now, and especially for Kathy Yan as a director, getting in that position, getting to break some ground and make a statement. I don't begrudge her the ire, even if I do sort of wish she had maybe pulled back a little on some of the attack mode.
And I think what Grace is also trying to say is that with her inside sources, usually it's not communicated. I feel like the way when she reports, at least the way it's phrased in a lot of her reporting, is that this is not a gossip, this is a fact. But the fact that she can't say who her sources are, she can't cite them,
so it
makes it a gossip report.
If you can't cite a source, you can't cling to the legitimacy with any level of solidity.
Okay, but does that make it a gossip report, even if Grace was really under the impression this was a fact?
I guess it's technically, to me, it still is. I mean, if you're convinced, I don't know, it depends on who her source is. She must trust her source. So in that sense, sure. But if you're giving it, again, I think there's a certain amount, especially in the day and age where people don't read full articles or bother to look at who wrote them. I think that it's the same once it gets to the people either way.
Exactly, yeah.
It's gossip for us until it's proven true. Or false.
Well, there's no real conclusion here.
No, not until this controversy continues. I don't know. Now I'm sitting here wondering, because that's the thing is David Ayer with Suicide Squad at first was a big team player about it, and now he's been able to open up. And so as much as I like Birds of Prey way more than that theatrical cut, I also wouldn't be surprised if Kathy Yan didn't have the most fluid experience making that movie and interacting with the studio.
What's funny, too, is before all this, David Ayer and Grace Randolph were going back and forth, but it was positive and respectful.
Oh, goodness.
There wasn't any of the bits.
The Joker didn't swallow a hard drive full of dick pics.
Yeah.
That wasn't what they cut out of Suicide Squad.
I just thought it'd be fun to share with you guys. You got to hold your journalism and movie news more accountable.
Yeah.
Political news, whatever. That's whatever. Believe whatever you want to believe. But movie news, that's the important
We need integrity.
stuff.
What do you think, guys?
It's weird to do a video about something that's
so silly.
It's so opinionated and such a feud between, it seems like more of a one-sided feud because Kathy Yan's really angry.
Yeah.
And Grace Randolph is just trying to defend herself and credibility. And then for us to be like, this is funny. This is interesting. I don't really have a solid conclusion on this.
No, they both have some kind of a point.
Yeah.
We'll never know the truth, probably.
Yeah.
I bet they both just want to drop this.
Yeah. I mean, there are people on both sides. You go through Twitter, you'll see that there are some people who are very much on Kathy Yan's side. There are people very much on Grace Randolph's side. And I'm more on the side of Grace. Maybe start citing who your sources are. I feel like that could
would hurt your source.
It might hurt your source. But I feel like if your source was someone who was like, oh, damn, that's your fucking source. I get why you believe that. That can make the world of difference in this argument.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's an oddly tricky situation because now we're seeing that journalism obviously has a direct effect on film sometimes, but also a lot of us, especially in the movie sphere, are put in this position where the biggest breaking stories are the ones with dubious credibility.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's the whole point. Is like, oh, it's breaking news.
Well, what's your take on this? What do you think? Is this a big deal? Was it fun? This is a very long video.
Are you self-conscious that it wasn't a bigger deal?
Subscribe. Click that notification bell. See you guys.